Hello, hello, Saad. How are you doing today and where are you dialing from?
I'm good, Kate. Thank you so much for having me. And I don't know if you're asking about my health or you're asking about the location where I'm at. So I'm currently in New Jersey, and health-wise, I am still trying to cope up with the chilliness over here in New Jersey because I'm not used to it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for taking your time and joining my hot seat session today, the purpose of which is to help companies all over the world to address their blind spots and gain competitive edge with the help of our mentors, which is you. So today you chose a rather interesting topic to discuss. So I'm really interested to learn more about this. So before we dive deeper, tell me about yourself a little bit.
Okay, so where do I start from? I'll start from how this journey started. So initially, I started working as a linguistic instructor back in Pakistan. This was around 17 years back. Yes, around 17 years back. I started working as a language instructor. I was teaching English as a language, as a second language. I did that for a couple of years, and while doing that, I realized that I there was a gap, a skill gap when it comes to soft skills in general. That it was not just about communication; it was about the way that you present yourself, the way you deal with certain situations. I started creating and developing these programs that focused on soft skills, general soft skills or human skills. While doing that, what I realized was that there are multiple ways in which you can impart knowledge, but then the real essence or the real impact is how do you take that knowledge and you turn it into something which is more of a behavior and an action at work. Like, how can you see the real impact? Because with these trainings, what really happened is with these soft skills trainings, that you could help people understand that there is something that they need to change or something that they need to develop, but you could really show them the impact of what happens when they develop or what happens when they exercise those skills. That is where I got introduced to the concept of game-based learning, which is also known as experiential learning. And I started developing these programs that focus more on creating experiences for the trainees and the learners so that while they are identifying where they stand when it comes to a certain skill set, they're able to practice it. They're able to self-reflect and see what is that they need to do to be better, and how that they can actually see that impact and be more receptive to change and learning something new. And that is where experiential learning started for me. And after that, all my programs and everything that I did, because after that, I moved on towards doing a lot of executive leadership programs. I was developing succession planning frameworks. I was working on human capacity boot camps where you would take technical graduates and you will turn them into individual contributors in different organizations. I used and applied the concepts of experiential learning at the core of it, which is that I wanted people to experience where they are and what they can achieve by putting them in game-like situations. I hope that
Oh, it's
was an okay introduction because I usually get I digress when I'm talking about my journey.
No, this is a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. And actually, my first question to you was exactly why you chose that it's tabletop games, which are actually a great tool for developing essential human competences. And I feel like you've already answered this question to me. But
And I'm
maybe
really
you
sorry
have.
to I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm really sorry to those who are listening and to you as well that I'm using the tissue. As I said, I'm trying to get used to the weather over here, and I've just gone down with a really crazy flu situation. So I'm just trying to make sure that yes, I don't embarrass myself on a live session. Hence, I have a tissue.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Thank you. So let me proceed to my next question, actually. And let's imagine that company is really invested in what you're talking about. They would like to use this tool because it sounds interesting, it sounds innovative. But my question to you, are there any considerations, for selecting right tabletop games to align with competency development needs of a particular company or just a team?
Okay, so that depends on, and that's a very good question. And I think usually what we do is because I don't want to, like the approach that I usually have when I am addressing these concerns from different clients is to help them understand that my role as a facilitator is to make sure that we create something that is meaningful for your audience. And that would only happen if you've actually done some homework on what is it that the client really wants. So things to consider when you are trying to figure out or select the best tabletop game is, what is your objective behind it? What is it that you really want to achieve? Where do you think there is a skill gap, and how do you want to showcase that the skill gap has been overcome one way or the other? Because the idea is to make sure that these games help them practice a skill that they need improvement in, and then after they've played the game, because game-based learning is not just you coming in a session, having some fun, playing a game, and then walking away from it. The real part of game-based learning, like experiential learning, is in the debrief, which is once you've played the game, you sit down with everyone who was involved in that fun activity and talk about their experiences. How did you do? What is it that you could have done to be better? Talk about your team members, or talk about what the other team was doing, learn from what their technique or their approach towards that game was. Because see, the idea of the game is to create a healthy competition and make sure that people compete with each other, but in a way that the stakes aren't really real life. It's not that you are putting some of the stakes at work on the line to make sure that yes, you're able to achieve something. Because then we try and find shortcuts to how is that we want to achieve success. With game-based learning or with games or tabletop games, what happens is that it's competitive, but you don't have much to lose. It's either you win or you lose, and then you will sit down with the team members or with the people that are in the room with you and just discuss, what did you do right, what did you do wrong, what is it you could do better. So the idea is in the debrief. And to answer your question, what really matters when it comes to considering which tabletop game is the objective that you want to achieve out of that tabletop game. If I want a company, or if I want my audience to improve on their negotiation skills, I cannot play a game that does not focus on negotiating. The game has to have that element of negotiation, or talking to each other, or trying to figure out a win-win situation. Only then that tabletop game is effective for that situation.
Absolutely agree. It's a great insight. But are there any particular challenges that you've come across during, your career that can be associated when the company just tries to introduce a tabletop game into their company's development strategy?
I think the biggest challenge that I've had, and because I've worked in three different regions, I was in Pakistan first, and I went to the Middle East, and now I'm in the US. So what
All
I've
over the
seen,
world.
yes, and I've actually had the opportunity to meet with people all across. And as a result, what happens is that there's some regions that they still don't believe in the concept of game-based learning. They believe it's more towards team building, or taking your team out to have some fun, and it has nothing. There's nothing serious associated to it. Uh, and that is where you have to show them the relevance and the importance and the significance of game-based learning. And usually, how I would do that is I would tell them that, what, don't invest in it right now. Let me come in and show you, give you a feel of what it's like, a teaser or a taster of what it would feel like. And if you like what we have to offer, and you can see that it has the efficiency or the effectiveness to actually make a difference, we will then talk numbers, or we can then talk about how do you want to do this long term. Because it's not just a one-day program where you come in and you play a game, and then you do a debrief session and you talk about what is it that you're taking away from it, and then you walk away. It has to be an organic process over a longer period of time, because only that's how you develop behaviors, or meaningful behaviors. You can't just say that I walk in today, do a session, walk away, and people would take that behavior and run with it. That won't happen.
Actually, you've mentioned such an interesting point, and I didn't originally plan to ask this one, but since Gleek audience, is kind of evenly split between the United States and MENA region, can you tell me, are there any, significant differences between how they, treat tabletop games, for what we're talking about, in the United States and in the MENA region? Are there any significant differences that we should pay attention to?
I don't know if this would be the popular opinion, or I would be cancelled after this. But what I believe is, over here, people don't focus a lot on the aesthetics. But back in the MENA region, aesthetics, they matter a lot. So the way you package what you're selling matters a lot back in the MENA region. But over here, because I can tell you, I took a simple game of Tetris to a client over here in the US. and they loved it, the way it was connected to their problem or their challenge when it comes to human capacity. And I took the same Tetris game. I'm sure the audience knows about the Tetris game, which is a brick game we all used to play when we were young. You have different color pieces, different shapes, and you have to put them together on a slab. And you have to make sure that every piece fits the slab. So when I took the same game to a client in the MENA region, I realized that, you know what, it's more about the aesthetics of how you present it, because it has to be presented as something which is very exclusive, something which has a lot of, I think exclusive is the right word for it. So the biggest challenge has been that, yes, the MENA region, you still have people who believe in the fact that, yes, it has to be fancy and it has to be packaged well. Over here, if it solves a problem, and if it is something that actually has significance and substance to it, they don't really care about the aesthetics. And I'm really
I
sorry to
agree.
the MENA region. I love being there. That is my second home. I'm still not used to the environment over here in the US. So everyone in the MENA region, I apologize in advance.
No, I absolutely agree with you. It doesn't mean that it's something good or bad. It's just the fact, and that's why we're here. We're helping our audience address their blind spots and gain competitive edge. So it's exactly what we're discussing, and I absolutely agree with what you've just said. So let's imagine that, we told the company what it's like to use the tools, how it helps, what are the challenges, and now can you give me some advice or any kinds of strategies that you personally use if organization is just trying to start this journey of implementing tabletop games for their competency development strategy, and what are some initial steps that they can take to not fail and to actually have tangible results?
Ideally, what I do is I use this goal setting technique by the name by which is called OKRs. It's objectives and key results. It's used a lot in the tech industry to identify goals and then make sure that you're able to achieve them. My main purpose, or the first thing that I focus on when I'm working with anyone, is to make sure that they have a clear objective of what they want to achieve. Because when you go to clients, they will have a list of requirements or wishes that they have when it comes to this is what they want their people to be able to do. But you can't really achieve all of it in one session or in one training intervention or a training cycle or a learning cycle. So what I usually tell them is that, you know what, let's just ask ourselves three simple questions. What do I want to achieve? And how will I achieve it? And what would be the matrix to measure what I want to achieve, right? For example, if I want to achieve the art of how is it my people are negotiating, but I'm using the negotiation example again, but let's say you want your people to become better problem solvers. Now you have a need and you know that this is what you want. You need to be very clear about how do you associate it to a result that you already are achieving, and do you see a difference in that result? Once they have a very clear OKR or an objective and a key result, which I know will not be the best version of it, it has to be refined over time. I have a lot of deliberations and meetings with the clients before we go ahead and decide on which tabletop game we'll use. And once we've identified that this is what their objective is and this is what they want to achieve, we look at the time duration of how soon do they want to see those results. Because you can't really say that I have an objective, this is the key result, and I want to measure this key result in 2 months. You have to give it enough time so that people can absorb it. They can see how they can use it. They can talk about the challenges that they've had while using it, and then maybe tailor that competence or that skill set to a point where it really fits that specific situation for that learner. So we identify on a time duration as well. Once that happens, that is when we go ahead and decide on the game that we'll use. Because even in the game, the idea is to take game elements that would directly correlate with the objective of what they want. So, for example, give you the example of a deck of cards. I can use a deck of cards to play multiple games that have multiple variations, and all of them will focus on different primary competency or skill set that focuses on that would highlight something that they do at work every day. So I can use that one deck of cards in multiple ways. But how do I want to use it depends on the objective and how do we associate that objective to a key result for the learners. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. And I see we have a great comment from somebody in the audience, Dion. She says each customer segment is different and it's important to tailor the offering to the specific segment being addressed. 100% correct. Thank you so much. But before we wrap up, are there any more, words that you would like to tell to our audience about actually, embarking of the journey of this kind of gamification, if I can call it this way, of actually, mastering your soft skills with the help of tabletop games. Any closing words that you have on your mind?
Okay. As I said, I would not say that yes, I'm an expert when it comes to this field. I'm someone who's still learning, and this is like a lifelong journey. One thing that I really want to talk about is that there is this misconception about what is game based learning and what is gamification. And I think we need to be able to understand the difference. Gamification is the process of taking a business process and introducing game elements to it, which means that if I have a process of logging in and logging out, I will create a leaderboard around it or a point system around it so that I can encourage people to do a business practice, right? Something which is important for the business, something that's part of a policy or part of what their day to day. So that's gamification. You take a business process and you add game elements to it to make it more of a competition. Game based learning, on the other hand, is you introducing game elements to develop a skill or to help them understand the importance of how they can develop over time when it comes to a specific skill set that is used in everyday work life of what they're doing. So I do see people using this term gamification and game-based learning. They change it, and I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that, because I remember I did a live session previously as well a couple of years back in which I was talking about the same thing, that these are two different things. Gamification is different, game-based learning is different. But closing words, what I would want to say is that if you want to use game-based learning, if you want to use tabletop games, the idea is to look at every game from a point of view that yes, you know what, this can be associated, because all these games that we play, and that is why you'll see that Lego Serious Play is doing huge, and there's so many other people solutions that use games to help develop skills. They're doing huge, and they're really creating a difference. Is because when you start looking at games and you start correlating them to real life problems, you'll see that all the mechanics of what you do within a game as a player is something similar to what you do at work. So if you can just start correlating them, you can start finding the similarities. You'll be able to use tabletop games on your own as well, and it's not that different. Pick any game and you can somehow associate and connect it to the human capacity of what you do at work. And you will see that, yes, it is something that everybody understands. It's just that you have to probe them. You have to help them think that way, that they will be able to use games in order to develop real life skills.
These are great closing words. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. That was extremely interesting. And I'm sorry we had that, the microphone issue, but I was able to hear you perfectly well. So thank you so much. And I hope our audience enjoyed this conversation as well. And if you did, I highly encourage you to check the caption and see how you can work with Saad to solve your own business issues or soft skills. So thank you so much. Somebody just said a very interesting approach to learning. So that
Thank you,
was great
Maxine.
having you today, Saad. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Kate. Thank you so much. And stay safe, everyone. And I hope that, yes, I was able to add some value. And if there's anything that you would like to discuss, please feel free to reach out and I'll be more than happy to talk. Thank you so
Great.
much, Kate. It's a
Goodbye.
pleasure. Take care. Bye.